The Kenya Met Department is warning of a failed rain season in the October to December 2022 period, which will in effect make the drought situation parts of the country are already experiencing even worse. Now already 4.35 million people are in dire need of food, a number that is likely to rise in the coming months. With the drought situation taking the form of a vicious annual cycle, weather and drought experts are calling for an overhaul of the drought response mechanisms. According to the Kenya Redcross Emergency Preparedness and Response Manager Venant Ndinghila, the current emergency interventions are no longer economically sustainable. Safin Achieng Ouma tells us more.
With most parts of northern Kenya having not seen a drop of rain in months, it means that about 4.3 million people in the country are in dire need of food. The ongoing drought, the worst in 40 years, has affected 23 counties, out of which 10 are under the alarm drought phase.
In terms of nutrition, there's very serious malnutrition for children under 5. At least 940,000 children under 5 years old are facing acute malnutrition.
According to Dr. Richard Muita of the Kenya Metrological Department, the country is now facing a 5th failed rainy season. And this is not a new phenomenon, as the perennial history of drought in Kenya dates back from as early as 1928, describing the current dry spell as the worst in Kenya's history in terms of longevity and severity.
In 1928, we had a very severe drought in Kenya. Then again, 1933 to 1937. In the 50s, again, we had some major drought. Since 2016, at least we have had depressed rains almost, consecutively.
According to the latest report from IPCC, this year actually has been one of the hottest years since time immemorial. And it is actually indicated in the IPCC reports that this trend is actually likely to continue, making even life more difficult.
The unfortunate history of perennial drought has, however, done little in informing future interventions. Concern has been raised over the lack of a proactive approach to addressing the drought situation in the country, which created another cycle of increased economic burden in drought mitigation programs. The Kenya Red Cross, for instance, has been engaged in an integrated drought management program distributing food to over 275,000 people, cash transfers to about 116,560 people, animal offtake program across several counties, and water provisions, among others. But with the growing demand, coupled with other factors such as the skyrocketing inflation rates, the emergency interventions are no longer economically sustainable.
So initially, we were looking at a family house, or rather a household of 6 or 5 people to support them with what we call quarter rations on emergency for 1 month. We were budgeting around 5,500 to 6,000. But now we are forced to budget at 9,700.
During the last financial year, the government disbursed 4 billion shillings for hunger safety net program and 3.45 billion shillings for emergency relief. Another 950 million shillings was spent on livestock offtake, while 446 million was used on water response activities. Experts in weather and drought management are calling for a change of strategy to end this cycle.
We're trying to provide seedlings and also some little awareness in the farmers so that they can be able to plant these short maturing crops, taking advantage of these rains.
Having livestock breeds that can be able to survive in areas that are continuing to become drier, instituting more management responses in dryland areas, for example. There is a scientific approach called rangeland management.
While appreciating the recent economic shocks occasioned by the COVID-19 pandemic, the locust invasion, the Russian invasion of Ukraine, and increasing global fuel prices, Oxfam Country Director John Kitui is challenging the national and county governments to make efforts to reduce the cost of living to enable Kenyans precariously living at the edge of misery not to fall into poverty and destitution. Kenya is among 3 countries in the Horn of Africa facing the worst drought in decades, occasioned by the below-average rainfall going into its 5th season. Safin Achieng Ouma, Citizen TV.